You were the Republican nominee back in 1996. You yourself, as we mentioned, are a World War II vet. In the field of the 17 Republicans this year in the primary election, most never even served in the military. And you are now the only past GOP presidential nominee who's going to go to the GOP convention. Why is it important for you to attend?
I've been a Republican all my life. The party's done a lot for me, and I hope I've done a lot for the party along the way. But when Donald Trump clinched the Republican nomination, it was an easy call for me. And what's a lifelong Republican supposed to do? Support the opponent? I don't
Some
think
people
so.
say they're not going to support either candidate. Mitt Romney, Jeb Bush, some of the other big names in your party are on the anti-Trump train.
Well, they still have time to get on the train. It's not moving that fast right now. And, you know, some of these people made pledges in the debates that they would support the nominee. And the one person that hesitated was Donald Trump. But then he signed the pledge that he would support the nominee, and now a few others who said they would support the nominee, whatever, are not doing it. And I think it's unfortunate. And my candidate was Jeb Bush, and he's a wonderful guy, and his dad is a very good friend of mine.
You know, John McCain, another former nominee,
mine and supports the Republicans.
John McCain, another former Republican Party nominee, has called on Donald Trump to apologize to the comments he made about veterans when he made that comment about John McCain being a POW and that he wasn't as brave of a man because he got caught. What do you say? Do you believe Donald Trump should apologize for that comment?
I certainly do, and I've one of my best friends, one of my closest 2 or 3 friends is John McCain, and I'm going to try to get Trump to issue an apology. I mean, John McCain suffered, tortured, broken arm. What do you expect? You know, this young man at the time did everything that you would want a serviceman to do, above and beyond the call of duty. He was tough, and as you know, he had a chance to go home early, but stayed there because he knew he was going home early because of his dad, who was an admiral and very important admiral. But Donald, that's the one area that I hope nominee Trump would do, is start honing down his rhetoric. And there's nothing wrong with apologizing to the governor of New Mexico or John McCain or anybody else that he's insulted,
like Mexicans or Muslims or women.
Pardon?
Are apologies necessary to all of those groups?
Well, they're not necessary, but they're the right thing to do.
Does it bother you that Donald Trump has such heated rhetoric and is offending and in many cases demonizing some of these people who are part of our American fabric?
Yeah, it bothers me. I mean, I've been around for quite a while, and I've seen candidates come and go, and I think, you know, this is a real phenomenon with Trump doing what he's done from scratch. So I applaud him for that, but I don't applaud him for the insults. And I, as a supporter, I would like him to issue a blanket apology or individual apologies. These people don't deserve that. They're good, strong Republicans. John McCain, for example, governor of New Mexico, Jeb Bush. I mean, you know, then that's how we bring the party together. If we want to bring the party together, you try to reach out to those that you've offended.
How concerned are you that he's done enough damage with some of these groups that traditionally may not have voted Republican, including Hispanics? The majority of female voters have gone Democrat the last couple of elections, electing Barack Obama. These are groups, and African Americans, that he needs to win in order to win the general election. How concerned are you that it's too late to get the support from these people?
No, I think there's still time. It's not too late. And I can already see a sort of a shift in the Trump's tone. And he needs to start talking like he's about to be president. And
How does he win? How does he win over these groups?
How does he win over who?
These groups that we've just been talking about. The Hispanics,
Oh.
the African Americans, the women, the younger people.
Well, there's you know, in my long time in politics, the only way to turn people around is to, you know, meet with them and speak with them and lay out a plan that's attractive to them, and not always that we're going to kick everybody out of the country. And you know, that isn't the way I reacted while I was in the Senate for 28 years and Republican leader for 10. You know, you have to have friends in this business. You can be D's and R's, but if you want to win, you need friends.
And boy, have politics changed since your time there, right? I wonder what you are, as you watch this election play out, one of the big questions that remains is who might be Donald Trump's running mate? Who would you like to see him choose? Maybe somebody with military experience? Or what are the characteristics and qualities and skill sets that are still needed on a Donald Trump ticket?
You know, my view is that Donald Trump needs someone who understands Congress, who can help him work with Congress, who understands foreign policy, domestic policy, economic policy. You know, someone like Newt Gingrich. And Newt, you know, none of us are perfect, but Newt Gingrich, I think, is a good fit for Trump because he can help him in all those areas. And then Trump has to listen. You know, you got to have some people you trust if you're the candidate that you can confide in, and they can tell you, Donald, you're making a mistake, you shouldn't do this, you should do this, or whatever.
Have you reached out to Donald Trump to offer advice or support?
How do I rate it?
I'm sorry, have you reached out to him? I didn't hear.
Yeah, I didn't hear the question.
Have you reached out to Donald Trump, or has he reached out to you for advice?
Yeah, he's called me twice. He called me last week, said he'd be calling me again this week. We just had a nice visit, and I suggested maybe go over the rhetoric, and I put a plug in for Newt Gingrich because I know Newt. I've watched, you know, Newt and I didn't always get along when we were in Congress, but I've watched Newt the past several months, and I believe he'd be a real asset. And, you know, he knows people in politics, in the House and the Senate respect him, and he would be a big, big help of Donald Trump because he's going to need it. He's never been a legislator. He's never been elected to anything. And
So you talked about You talked about
billionaire
Newt
to-
Gingrich and the vice presidency and who might be on the Donald Trump ticket. You talked about Donald Trump's rhetoric. What else did you talk about or advice did you give?
Well, I just said he thanked me for my support. That was the purpose of the call. I said, well, it wasn't a problem for me. I cannot figure out some of these other people who are holding back or saying they will not endorse you. But then we talked a little about, I told him I thought his vice presidential selection would be very important. Normally they're not, but I think in this case, where you have a non-political nominee, you're going to need a vice president who can help you. And I don't know whether he listened or not, but said he's going to keep calling me, and I hope he does. I'm a supporter, and I want to give him good advice. And maybe since I lost in '96, maybe not 96, but maybe since I lost, I'm not the best person to give advice.
But sometimes you learn more from your mistakes than your successes. At least that's how I feel in my own life. I'm wondering, since
Yeah, I
you are
learned a
also
lot by losing, and you make a lot of friends, and it's how you handle it. And, you know, Bill Clinton and I are friends, and we ran against each other, fairly nasty campaign, as all campaigns seem to be.
You've run against
so you have to
Hillary.
move on with your life. You have to turn the page
Brother.
and do the next thing.
I know that you probably have an opinion about running specifically against a Clinton. What kind of advice do you think you would give Donald Trump, specifically focused on a strategy against the Clintons?
Oh, that's a tough question, because I think Hillary has a lot of baggage, and while she doesn't admit it, it's there, and it's
But the public has
fairly
already
clear that
probably
she-
known about a lot of that
things she
because
shouldn't have
her
done.
family has been in the spotlight for so many decades.
right, and she's been there a long time, and people are looking for fresh faces. That's why Rubio was so attractive for a long time, because he's a new generation, and you know, she's been around, 30 years? I don't know, but a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Clinton, would be a great asset, has had this health problem and doesn't look strong and robust like he has been in the past, and he affects his voice, and so he's not going to be able to go out there and have the fire and brimstone he would have had earlier.
But he could be an advisor, certainly, if not in an official capacity. If he's in the White House with his wife, should she be elected as president, he would be along her side. So it almost sounds a little bit like you could see them making a play and being a decent couple to run the country.
Yeah, well, I think that's another problem for Hillary, because she's advertising that Bill Clinton will be in charge of the economy. And the economy is probably number one problem, if you really get down to it, in the United States. And people want jobs. They want to find a good-paying job. And that would help Trump with women, of course, everybody, Latinos, whoever might not feel kindly towards him now, but I don't think you can have a shared presidency, even though you trust your wife, and I assume she trusts him.
Well, let me ask you one last question before we let you go, because we've taken a lot of your time on this Saturday. You also, I know, have a close relationship with the Bush family. You talked about Jeb Bush. Do you think that he needs to fall in line and get behind Trump?
I believe Jeff is a man of integrity and honesty. I just hope he keeps his word when he said he would support the nominee. And I know Trump didn't make it very easy for him because of all the things he said about Jeb. But Jeb is bigger than that. And I do hope to see him on board. It would mean a lot in states like Florida. And Jeb has friends all over the country. So does his dad and brother and mother.
Well, Bob Dole, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your service to this country. And thank you for joining us here on CNN Newsroom. I hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day.
Oh, well, thank you. And I want to thank all those men and women out there who served their country, whatever it was, wherever it was. This is their weekend. And, you know, I know some people it's just a day to go fishing or something. Mm-hmm. But take 30 minutes to at least, pay your respects to people who lost their lives or were seriously disabled. And I saw hundreds and hundreds of people today at the World War II Memorial who were doing just that.
Well, thank you for all that you do for our veterans as well, and wishing you better health. I know you mentioned that you've been battling some pneumonia lately. We wish you the best. Thanks again.
Okay, well, thank you.